Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba.
And I'm Irvin Price.
All right, our next guest is the Honorable Dave Walker. Over 40 years of leadership experience in the public and private and nonprofit sectors, recognized expert on government transformation and fiscal responsibility, former Comptroller General of the United States and CEO of the U.S. Government Accountability Office, GAO, currently candidate for Governor of Connecticut, speaker, and best author. Dave, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you.
All right, thank you. I just gave a little bio on your background, but 40 years in leadership and experience. Give us some real highlights, and then we'll jump right into your topics.
Well, I've run a worldwide line of business for the largest accounting and consulting firm in the world at the time, Arthur Andersen. I also have done audit and consulting and tax work for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I've run 3 federal agencies, 2 in the executive branch, 1 in the legislative branch. I've run 2 not-for-profits. I've been on a number of boards, including the Social Security Medicare Trustees Board. And now I'm trying to help turn around the state of Connecticut, which has gone from a top 5 state to a bottom 5 state in 30 years and is in desperate need of fundamental restructuring.
Let's dive into that. What are you doing there?
Well, Connecticut has lost its way, frankly, in the last 30 years. It's taxed too much. It's spent too much. It's over-regulated. It's become an anti-business state. We need to make a number of changes with regard to tax and regulatory policy. We need to reform our compensation and benefit programs for public employees, which is really out of line. We've got to modernize our welfare system. We need to start investing more in infrastructure rather than consumption. The good news is it's not too late, and if we can end up making some of these changes starting in 2019, we've got a lot to sell in this state. It's a beautiful state with a proud history, great geographic location, number 2 in quality of life between New York and Boston. 5 months of the year, there's no better place to live in the country than the coast of Connecticut. So we actually do have a lot, but we've got to put our house in order before we can sell with a straight face.
Dave, it's Mervyn. What a privilege to have you on the air. Thank you so much. I've watched your career. I've looked at your career, the turnarounds in Arthur Andersen, very familiar with it. You have actually done a great service to this country. And as you're talking about running for the Governor of Connecticut, your experience goes way beyond that. There's a need for federal finance reform, it's said, in this country. Do you want to take that and discuss it a little bit?
Well, sure. I'm arguably one of the leading, if not the leading, fiscal responsibility advocates in the United States, both federal, state, and local. And, as Comptroller General of the United States and CEO of the GAO, I really did a lot of work to try to help Americans understand that we're on an imprudent and unsustainable course. Look, we need to take steps to increase economic growth. We need to get debt as a percentage of the economy down to a reasonable and sustainable level. And that's going to take a number of things. It's going to take reforming our budget process and controls. It's going to take comprehensive tax reform that makes the system simpler, fairer, more competitive, and generates more revenues and economic growth. It's going to take regulatory relief. It's going to take Social Security and Medicare reform. It's going to take going at the Affordable Care Act and dealing with some of the issues there. We need to rationalize our defense spending. We're wasting a tremendous amount of money in defense on overhead, and yet we need to improve readiness. We need to invest much more in critical infrastructure. We're in danger of becoming a third world nation with regard to critical infrastructure in certain regards. So the bottom line is that while we need to do a number of things to improve our economic growth, we've lost control of the budget. Most of it's on autopilot. The federal government's 10.5 times bigger today than it was 100 years ago. And like many governmental entities, grown too big, promised too much, time to restructure.
What about the challenges facing Connecticut and other troubled states that need reform?
Well, 80% of the financial problem associated with Connecticut is underfunded pensions and unfunded retiree health care. That's 80%. And Connecticut is the highest paid state in the union for its state workers, not because of cash compensation, because it's got outrageously expensive and generous pension and retiree health care benefits. So we need to restructure those in a way that's fair to the employees, the retirees, and the taxpayers who have to pay the bill. We don't want to cut anybody's pension, accrued pension benefit, but we've really got to dramatically restructure the health care promises because they're unreasonable, unaffordable, unsustainable. Our welfare system is 25% more generous than the surrounding states. We're one of only a few states in the union that compete with the not-for-profit sector to deliver social services. It costs a lot more money and poorer quality. There's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in the system that has to be taken on. And look, these are issues that I have direct experience in, and so I think I'm fortunate to be with the right person in the right place at the right time to try to help get this done.
It sounds like, I'm filled with enthusiasm from this conversation, but Merv, you had some questions about the politics side.
Well, I'm just admiring a lot of things about this gentleman. Dave served as the chairman of the United States Independent Audit Advisory Committee for 4 years. That's a pretty big position. It's a global position.
It is.
Talk about the work you did there, please, Dave.
Well, I got recruited by Paul Volcker, former chairman of the Fed, to throw my hat in the ring for chairman of the Independent Audit Advisory Committee for the United Nations, and the State Department encouraged me to do that too. And that's a part-time thing. It's something I started doing when I was Comptroller General of the United States, and continued it through my tenure as CEO of the Peterson Foundation. Believe it or not, you get elected to that position. I was elected by the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I was then elected by my peers, where there were 5 of us in total, so my peers from all around the world to serve as chairman twice. And basically what we did is we tried to oversee the internal audit and investigatory activities of the United Nations to try to help, reduce risk, improve performance, assure accountability, for the United Nations. And, that's a challenging job. Government is complex enough, but when you've got a multinational organization that is run by diplomats and tries to do things on consensus, it's not a model for economy, efficiency, and effectiveness.
Well, I know, Dave, that Michael has a question, but yesterday we had some baseball players on. That one didn't make the Hall of Fame, but you have actually made the Hall of Fame, haven't you? The International Accounting Hall of Fame.
I've actually made 2 Hall of Fames, but people wouldn't know they even existed. I'm in the Accounting Hall of Fame, the International Accounting Hall of Fame, and I'm in the International Internal Audit Hall of Fame. And quite candidly, until not long before I got admitted, I didn't know they existed either. At least I got that going for me.
Michael, go ahead.
No, I didn't know they had one. Now we are one. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
But political reforms, you see the landscape out there. Tell us what you see on that side.
Well, you're talking about national, or you're talking about in Connecticut?
Let's start with a micro and then move to the macro.
Well, on the macro, which would be the United States, look, I've never seen the country more split. It's not just along partisan lines; it's along ideological lines. It's very, very troubling. Washington is dysfunctional. It can't get things done. Part of that is because I believe that we now have a republic, which is supposed to be a representative democracy, which is no longer representative of nor responsive to the general public. We have way too many elected representatives who are lawyers, way too many representatives who are career politicians, way too many representatives are either too far to the right or too far to the left to be willing and able to engage in constructive compromise. And we haven't had, a president in recent years that was able to do what Ronald Reagan did, which is use the bully pulpit to go directly to the people, to make the case to the people, for them to put pressure on the politicians to act, and then negotiate privately on a bipartisan basis for reasonable compromises to get 70% of what you want and live to fight another day. So Washington is in gridlock. We need redistricting reform. We need integrated and open primaries. We need campaign finance reform. We need lobbying reform, and we need term limits.
All right, we got about 15 seconds left before we have to close. Last thoughts on anything.
We live in the best country on earth, but we've got some challenges we need to face. Connecticut can be great again. And I'm happy to help deal with the problems both at the national level and the state level. It's not too late to create a better future.
All right, contact information for you, Dave.
DaveWalkerCT.com, and then Twitter is CT Dave Walker.
You are a great interview. I want to have you back as soon as we can, Dave.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much,
Take
Dave.
care, guys.
All
Bye-bye.
right. You're welcome. All right, the Honorable Dave M. Walker, DaveWalkerCT.com. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba.
And I'm Irving Price.
All right, we'll be right back on the other side of this break with Laura Anthony, founding partner, legal and compliance. You're going to hear more from this person as we go forward. We'll be right back.